And a little bit of childish Gambino there with Redbone. Well, Matthew Dickinson, the Mayor, has now joined me, so we're getting into it about the council meeting this morning. Good morning, Matthew. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Kel. Good to see you here behind the microphone again.
Last morning, this morning.
Is it really?
Yes, off to the USA.
Have you enjoyed it?
Thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah, good. So how long are you in the US for?
6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Having Christmas and New Year over there.
Yeah, wow. That'd be different, a white Christmas. I've never had a white Christmas. I've always been around warmer climates for a Christmas.
No, it will be a white Christmas down at Mount Rose, just outside Reno in Nevada.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
Which will be lovely.
That sounds good.
So, how did our council meeting go last night?
Yeah, good. And it's actually interesting. We have, obviously, people come along in the gallery and watch council meetings. It might not sound the most riveting thing, but it's interesting, people taking notice of what's happening in the community. But of course, we do web streaming as well, so we do actually stream meetings to the web, so people do sit at home and watch. I often joke, that there are thousands of people at home watching it. There's not quite that many, but we do have a few people who sit at home and watch it, so it's good. So you do get a few people who will comment when they run into you or send you a message or make a phone call about something that happened at the council meeting. So it's great to see so many people who are interested in what's happening in council in general, and just things that they don't think about, things that they're not aware of. So all sorts of different things pop up at council meetings.
Wish I had been there last night, would have been good. So these acquisitions of land for Blue Ridge Link Road, what's going on there?
So there's a really important thing that we're trying to work on with Sheraton Road. Now, people often talk about Sheraton Road, the state of Sheraton Road, in a very poor condition, and it is. Now, we linked up Boundary Road across to Sheraton Road to make people have two ways to access, mainly that school area there, and of course you've got the large hardware store there as well. But unfortunately, when that link road went through, that meant that Sheraton Road, which had been in a fairly poor state of repair in previous years, has been exposed as being fairly in major need of repair, basically. One of the things that's important is there are some heavy vehicles that go along there because there's a quarry down the end there. We want to make sure that we've got some different ways of accessing that area. So one of the things we did last night was we gave the CEO the ability to go out and negotiate with some of the landholders around Blue Ridge to get a link road. And that link road basically will allow traffic to come directly off the highway through Blue Ridge and actually take that heavy traffic away from Sheraton Road. Obviously, we still need to do some work on Sheraton Road to make that better. But one of the things is when we do repair Sheraton Road and make that a better road, we want to keep it in that good state for as long as possible. Getting that heavy traffic off there will be important. So essentially, it's not a short-term solution for Sheraton Road, but it's a big picture solution that there'll be some land acquisitions that will occur in Blue Ridge, and there'll be another road that will be put through there to take that traffic away from Sheraton Road. So good move there, and giving people some information and some hope that things will get a lot better in traffic areas around there.
I think that would be terrific because it has been a bit of a pile up there in Sheraton Road for my young ones were at St John's Primary and High School, and it's a block there and the heavy vehicles and everything. So that'll be terrific if they can put some acquisition of land in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
So getting along, what have we got? The licence agreement for 74 Windjuri Street, the Greens.
So this is the old Dubbo City Bowling Club. Now that was purchased by the RSL Club, and then in the previous council there was a land swap done with some land in Keswick and that particular parcel of land. So council now essentially owns that, and the use of that is unknown. There was no real plan when that land swap was done to use that for something. So we're going through a planning process to look at how we can best utilise that particular piece of real estate, whether the existing building there, whether the greens as they are laid out there, or change all that. That'll take a little while to do. In the meantime, it's an asset sitting there not being utilised. So what council decided last night was that we'd like someone to say they'd like to use it in whatever they want to use, way they want to use it. They want to pay some money for it, and we're basically saying expressions of interest are now open. It's only a short expression of interest period because it's only going to be someone that can use that for a maximum of 2 years. So that expression of interest is going to be very clear that you can only have it for 2 years. So if you're planning on building a business up and having a great location and that's the place you want to be, that's probably not the best thing for you to do. It's something that you might have a short-term usage, or you might have a stepping stone there. And again, you'll still need to pay something because obviously it's a council real estate. We want to get some sort of return on that. But essentially, if you've got an idea, contact council, send through the information, talk to our staff about it, talk to councillors about it, find out some more details. But essentially, we want some people that have got an idea of what they want to do for it to put an expression of interest in, and we want that to happen fairly quickly because it just seems like a dead asset sitting there at the moment. So until the 7th of December, anyone's got up until the 7th of December to put an expression of interest in. We'll make a decision fairly quickly around that so people can get into it almost straight away if they want. So what you want to do with it and how much you're prepared to pay for it, keep in mind that you'll have it for a maximum, absolute maximum. I can't stress that enough, Kel. Absolute maximum of 2 years.
And it is a good venue there.
Well, it's a good spot right
is.
there near the centre of town. So you've got a good location there. You've got easy access to some sporting fields. You've got access to the Western Plains Cultural Centre there. So it's a good location. And again, I'm sure there are lots of people who'd want to use it. Now, we've had some organisations who would love to have that, but again, they want it for long-term usage. So we're saying at the moment, just a maximum of 2 years. Just keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about what you might do with it.
What's council proposing they're going to do with it in 2 years' time?
We don't know. That's the planning process. So
Fair
we've
enough.
got to come up with a plan for that. But we know that it'll take some time to go through a planning process, then put some finances together and put a budget together to then actually do whatever we come up with that particular parcel of land and the building. And it might involve the building being knocked down. It might involve the building staying there. Who knows? But there'll be some use we'll have for it. We'll come up with some plan for it. But at the moment, I don't know because we haven't actually done that planning yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. The reallocation of funds for heavy patching, to the regional roads and maintenance.
And this is one that the other solution we talked about with Sheraton Road was more a medium-term solution. This is a short-term solution. The biggest problem that our road repair crews have at the moment is when they want to do heavy patching. And heavy patching is when you cut out a section of road, basically take away all the bitumen, get back down to the soil and then start again from there. So you're really doing some heavy patching of that. The problem they're having at the moment is when they actually dig down to that dirt to do that, the dirt's seeping water up. There's so much water, so much moisture under the roads themselves. It's almost like there's a spring. It's not quite as bad as that, but there is this water seeping up through it. So they just aren't able to do those heavy patches. Now, we've got money in our budget that says this is the money we've set aside for heavy patching over the financial year we're in, but we just can't spend that money. So we needed to do something to spend that money on some short term, some maintenance, if you like, some patching of holes. So we basically last night relocated $1 million out of the budget we had set aside for heavy patching into that short-term patching, the pothole fixing as such. So that's really just a recognition of the fact that there's no point having the money sitting in the budget and having our roads in a poor state of repair. We may as well take the money from one part of the budget and shift it across to another part.
I think all of the local residents will be really pleased about that because a lot of people have been whinging about the potholes around town. I mean, can't be helped with all the rain that we've had for so long.
That's right, and with good reason. The roads are in a terrible state of repair at the moment, but again, this is one of those ways that we're trying to readjust that. It didn't mean that we suddenly found an extra $1 million, unfortunately. In an ideal world, we'd prefer to do the heavy patching because that's better for long-term repairs, but at least this way we're doing something to try and fix some of those short-term issues. So you're right, it is a major issue for people, and I would get phone calls and emails about that every single day, about roads in general, because, yep, they are in a bad state of repair.
They are at the present moment, but you'll get there and you'll get them back into shipshape condition. Looking at the 2021-2022 annual report.
So this is the report that basically comes out each year. It's an obligation. One of the things that we have to do under the Local Government Act 1993 from the state government is produce an annual report for our residents. So this is the annual report that essentially went through council last night. Council had a chance to have a look at that, make sure there were no major errors in there, make sure the photos of all the councillors look good and they're all smiling, all sorts of important things in there. But this annual report will be available from the 30th of November. Now, one thing that's interesting from that is that back in my previous term as mayor, we used to print hundreds of copies, maybe even thousands of copies of the annual report. Sometimes, way back a long time ago, we used to deliver it to every resident's mailbox, so every resident in the local government area received a physical copy of that. But it became very expensive and it became obvious that people weren't always reading the physical copy, they were more keen to read electronic copies of it. So we're at the point now where you'll be able to access this, again, from the close of business on the 30th of November, that'll be available. You'll be able to access that electronically, you'll be able to go to the website, be able to download that, it'll be in a PDF format. You'll be able to do all of that and look at it electronically. If someone really does want a paper copy, yes, you'll still be able to go in to the customer service centre and they'll print a paper copy for you that you might have to wait a little while or you might have to come back the next day. But we're not going to have hundreds or thousands of copies on hand just to hand out to people because of the expense of printing those. Again, it's a fairly large document, it's in full colour. Each document to print would be reasonably expensive, but again, if you multiply that by 1,000, most people prefer we spend that money on potholes.
I agree with you there. And look, it's the electronic way that is the way to go, but then we still have the residents that are up in their 80s and their 90s and that aren't computer savvy, so it is a good thing that they will be able to pop into council and the council will be able to print it for them, which will be terrific.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think most people are accessing that sort of information electronically, but we want to make sure we're catering to all of our residents. So yes, if you do need one, in a physical copy, you can still get that, but we're just not going to print a lot and have them on hand, ready to hand out
Which
to
is
people.
sensible.
Yeah.
Save a tree.
That's exactly right.
So looking at our Community Services Fund for 22-23,
Yeah.
so the Dubbo Environment Group Incorporated, they've been given some money.
They got $5,000. So,
Lovely.
And this is a combined total. We've got a budget of approximately $60,000 that we do for these community groups. And I know you've got the list there in front of you, all the groups. I assume you're not going to run through all the groups.
No, we won't.
I'll mention the Dubbo Environment Group in a moment. But the idea here is that we've got money that we give out to various groups. And what I love about it is we might give some of them hundreds of dollars or maybe a few $1,000s. But because they're relying so heavily on some really active people in the community, typically some volunteers, they turn that small amount of money into a huge amount of benefit for the community. So I think the $60,000 that we handed out or agreed to hand out last night is really important for the community in terms of the things they'll do. The first one you mentioned there, I'll just pick on that one, the Dubbo Environment Group was on the top of the list there. They've got the Indian miner program to try and get rid of some Indian miners. Now I do have to stress, and I have mentioned this in council before, that when one of the councillors started talking about getting rid of Indian miners, we are not talking about young children from India. We are talking about the bird, they're a pest called the Indian miner, and miner is M-Y-N-A. So just in case you think that the council has suddenly gone crazy and they're out there eradicating children, no, we're trying to eradicate small birds. The Dubbo Environment Group are basically using that money. I assume they'll be using that money to get some traps, for example, to try and eradicate the Indian miners from our environment. So things like that, where they'll get some of the traps, they'll probably use some of that money to buy some traps, but then they'll have all their volunteers out there doing some great work, actually getting out there and trapping some of those Indian miners and eradicating those as much as possible. So there's that sort of thing that I'm talking about, where they really do some great work, some of those groups.
That's terrific. Do they relocate them?
I think, as far as I know, they're a non-native species to Australia, so I think they'd be eradicating them in a more severe manner. But I could be wrong on that. I don't know for sure.
And Can Assist Dubbo, Cancer Patient Financial Support.
So Can Assist do some fantastic work, and again, there's a list of them there. You can even rattle off the list if you like, rather than go into detail on each one. There's so many different groups there. Lifeline, I know, is in the list there that you've got in front of you, for example. So again, they do some fantastic work with our staff and just in Dubbo in general. There's an office that they've got here now, and the number of calls that go through that office is quite incredible. So yeah, there's a whole range of different groups that you've got there in front of you, Kel.
Well, the wonderful groups that have received this money is Rotary Club of Dubbo. We've got the Wellington Community Progress and Action Group, Red Cross Wellington Branch, the Arana Early Childhood Intervention, the Dubbo District Concert Band, and the Wellington Men's Shed. But the one I really would like to know about, the Dubbo Filmmakers Incorporated.
Yeah, so they do some great work with the filmmakers, and again, they'll use that money for buying some equipment. Film equipment can be expensive, but I know some of the people in the Dubbo filmmakers, and they are incredibly helpful. If anyone's got a bit of an interest, they want to make a short movie, or they just want to experiment and explore what they can do, a lot of people have the passion, a lot of people have the ability once they've got the right equipment, but the equipment is expensive. So you might pay thousands of dollars for a camera, you might pay even just for some of the tripods and some of the various utilities, the microphones, that sort of thing that you might use. A lot of people don't have that kind of money, but when you've got someone like the filmmakers, then you can go along and use that. You might have to rent it in some circumstances, or you can use it for free in some circumstances. But again, they're for the entire community.
Yeah, what a wonderful project. Really, really is.
Yeah.
And financial assistance. We've got some financial assistance for round one here. That's for Stewart Town Action Group. We've also got the Wellington Community Progress Action Group, Arana Physical Culture Incorporated.
And again, they're receiving money to do a variety of things with them. And binging radios like DCFM, it's a community radio station,
Yes, it
so
is.
they're receiving some funds to help them out, help deliver the message, and they're in Wellington rather than DCFM in Dubbo. But again, those various groups there are receiving some funds from council just to make sure that they can continue to do their work. Stewart Town, for example, at Progress Association there, again, they do some great things. Stewart Town is a very small community, but they do some fantastic things out there. For such a small community, I think they really punch above their weight. Again, if we can help them out, the small amount of money we give them, and most of these we're talking about, you're talking about, let's say, the small thousands, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 maybe in some of these. In the whole scheme of things, council's budget's $220, $240 million, so in the whole scheme of things, it's a small amount, but we believe, from a council perspective, they do some fantastic things with these funds.
They do.
Yeah.
Now, hot off the press, Matthew.
Hot off the press.
What's hot off the press?
So it was about a week ago, Thursday week ago, I was in Sydney at Luna Park, where there was the New South Wales Tourism Awards. And the Old Dubbo Jail picked up a silver award at those awards, so it was very exciting to be
Oh,
there with some of the team.
congratulations.
So that was fantastic. The Zoo picked up 2 gold awards. They do continually win awards. Last night there was another award ceremony on, and I didn't go to that because the council meeting was on, but 2 of our staff were there. And just towards the end of the council meeting, the CEO got a text and just tapped on my shoulder and just said, "Oh, this is just going through." So literally hot off the press, there's an awards process called the Imagine Awards. And the Old Dubbo Jail picked up the award in the 3 to 10 staff category for that. And so again, the Old Dubbo Jail, part of the reason they won the award last night and again last week is for the new display we've got there at the gallows. And if you haven't been to the jail lately, go in. If you're from the Dubbo local government area, it's free to go to the jail. So that's a fantastic thing. When visitors come, you can take them along. The visitors can pay and you can get in for free. Or if you just want to check it out, go there for free. But most people know that there were 8 people hung at the Old Dubbo Jail. That's part of our past. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a good thing to go forward and start hanging people that might be in jail on the equivalent of death row these days. No one is on death row in Australia, obviously. But in the past, we used to hang people. There used to be capital punishment in this nation. Now, that's changed, and I think for the better. But there were many people that were on death row. So there were 8 people that were hung, but there were many people on death row. And this new exhibit we've got there at the moment, we got money from the state government to create this whole exhibit, tells the story of all the people that were on death row. And I know I've been there, I've looked at it, I've taken some of my kids there, and just reading the stories about some of these people and some of the crimes they've committed have been fairly simple crimes, fairly low-level crimes, and they're on death row for that. Now, obviously not all of them were hung, only 8 of them were hung, but it is quite a fascinating story, and just seeing some of the equipment in that room as well, pretty scary when you think about that's how we dealt with people in a prison system. But congratulations to the jail again. Our team do a great job there. Last night there was Jamie and Jess who were down at the award ceremony. Last week we had Jane and Julie were there with Jamie and myself. So it seems like the J, doesn't it? Jane, Julie, Jane, Jess. It's only if you've got the letter J, you can work at the jail, even though the jail starts with a G. But anyway, that's a minor complication there. But no, congratulations to our team there. They do do a fantastic job, and congratulations on that award.
That's terrific. Now, was that the Dubbo Day Awards for the jail, or
No, that's a different thing again. So another one, a bit of history there for you. Way back on the 23rd of November 1849, Dubbo was officially gazetted or proclaimed a village. So that's when Dubbo started to exist. Now, there were people here. We had a thriving population at that stage. We had about 47 people who lived here at the time, and about 4 buildings were here in Dubbo. So back in 1849, it was happening. It was all happening here. Then from that point in time, obviously Dubbo started progressing. 1872 became a municipality, first mayor in 1872. In 1999, they held the sesquicentenary celebrations of Dubbo, so the 150th anniversary. As part of that, they held the Dubbo 150 Certificate Award winners. So these are people that have contributed to Dubbo over those first 150 years. So it was really those quiet achievers that were in there as part of the community. Fantastic event. It went so well that the council of the day, and this is before my time on council, said, gee, that worked well. Maybe we should do those awards every day, or sorry, every year, not every day, every year, rather than wait another 150 years. So hence was born the Dubbo Day Award. So from 2002 onwards, every year on the 23rd of November, we've held the Dubbo Day Awards, and it's really just a way of acknowledging those quiet achievers in our community, those people who are really making a contribution. So 10 people won those awards on Wednesday night, and one of those 10 is a slightly different award called the Tony McGrain Award, named after the former mayor of Dubbo, Tony McGrain. So Jeff Mann won that award. There were 9 other people who won the other 9 awards. And so it's a real celebration of people that are in there behind the scenes, not expecting any recognition, not expecting any pats on the back. They're just in there doing some great work for the community. And so congratulations to those 10 award winners from Wednesday night.
Fantastic. Do you think that the council might do something for the 175th anniversary for Dubbo in 2024?
Well, it may be something to look at there. This year is our 150th anniversary of being a municipality. Right. So the first mayor was elected in Dubbo 150 years ago. We didn't really do anything significant there. It's kind of a stepping stone, if you like. Being a village is kind of the very beginning. But you're right, in 2024 there may be some...
something to look at.
I don't even know what the sesquicentenary is, 150th, 175th, I'm sure would have another fascinating name. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there'd be a nice name for that. But that's a good point. I'll take that on board and take that back to my fellow councillors and see if there should be some event planned for 2024. Good idea.
Let's hope, fingers crossed. Well, thank you for coming in this morning, Mayor.
My pleasure.
Matthew Dickinson, lovely to have you here. And I will see you in the new year.
Indeed.
Have a
Enjoy your 6 weeks overseas.
I will. You have a wonderful Christmas and New Year.
Thank you very much. It almost seems too early to be saying Merry Christmas, doesn't it? But you're right.
It's a month today. Today's the 25th
wow.
of November, so
It's a
we've
bit
only got a month to
scary,
go.
isn't
It is.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks for coming in, Matthew. This is DCFM 88.9.